All right, everybody, meteorologist Greg D here on this Wednesday midday. Quick little update on Lee before I kind of start doing things after work here. I know there's been a lot of interest in the storm, so I just want to kind of show you what's going on here. This is your forecast details. The track earlier today really having an interesting shift. Based on what the GFS and European were showing, it really looks like the coast of New England needs to start watching the storm very, very carefully, as Lee may be getting pretty close to the New England coast. I would definitely watch down east Maine, that kind of area, for some potential impacts from the system. Maybe over towards Bangor, Maine, or maybe just north of the coast of Portland. That's where I would think the biggest impacts from the storm would be. Looks like, as you take a closer look at the track here, if it gets any closer to the New England coast, we could start talking about more significant impacts in places like Boston, back over towards the Cape. As the closer the storm gets to the coast, the more of a northerly wind you're going to get, and the more of an impact there's going to be from actual, or the potential for some flooding out there. I wanted to draw a couple of things here for you, one of which being the wind. If we get a wind out of the north here, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, you're talking about the winds blowing into the bay here, north of the Cape, and that is going to pile up water on the north shore of Cape Cod and any of these little bays and inlets on the south side of Boston. So we could get some flooding in these areas. The bay, as it fills up, similar to Tampa Bay, the bay up here around Cape Cod could cause some flooding. North side of Nantucket, that kind of deal. Around the coast of Maine on this track, you'd mainly get a push of water out to sea and away from the storm. In terms of when it would begin, this is 9 p.m. on Friday. The yellow tropical storm force winds, and you see they're already on Nantucket, coming into Martha's Vineyard, and then approaching the coast of Cape Cod. So this area here is going to start first, and then areas north and west of there, Friday night into Saturday, so that by Saturday morning, I would expect that most of the north of New England, eastern New England, would be seeing gusts to tropical storm strength. And if Lee tracks any closer, we could be talking about those strong tropical storm force winds. The orange area, those are areas that could see wind gusts over 60 miles an hour getting closer to the coast. The chances for seeing tropical storm force winds on Cape Cod now, 60 to 70%. That's also the case around the coast of Maine, the brown color there. And once you get into the oranges, that's more than a 70% chance. Yesterday, Boston was at 10 to 20%. Today, they're in the yellow. 30 to 40, maybe even 40 to 50% chance of seeing tropical storm force winds. Now, having said all that, Lee is going to be weakening as the storm heads up the coast and transitioning into a non-tropical system. So if you have friends and family in this coast, I grew up in New England, I've seen this before, this is going to be a strong nor'easter. You do get coastal flooding with nor'easters during the winter. That's because the wind drives the water into the coast. But the coast here is rockier and set higher up. It goes up much faster. So you tend to get that flooding right at the beaches. And it's going to be properties that are basically on the beach that are going to be most susceptible to that kind of flooding. Though we'll have to watch Cape Cod. That's not as hilly as the rest of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. So those areas are going to be more protected, I think, from a flood threat compared to places like the Cape. South side of Boston may also get it, that kind of thing. Of course, the Florida State Boston College game is in Boston noon on Saturday. It doesn't look good. I think there's going to be driving rain and wind. I mean, they're probably going to play the game. Is it going to be dangerous? Probably not. But it's just not going to be pleasant. It's going to be a wild game out there. So very interested to see what happens with that. We got another update coming in later on this morning. And of course, there's going to be another update this evening at 5 o'clock. I'm going to do another video after that update is released, because that'll incorporate some of the new model data that's going to come in mid-afternoon. But right now, it looks like we could see tropical storm conditions as Lee weakens from a hurricane to a coastal low, a non-tropical system as it approaches the coast of Maine. Friday night, really into Saturday, with the storm exiting during the day on Sunday. Keep it here. I've got another update coming up a little bit later as we watch Lee heading up the coast towards New England.